live. Welcome to episode 2 of the Realtors. I'm David Blair. He's Trevin Perez. Trevin, how's it going this week?
Hey, it's going fantastic, Blair. How about yourself?
I'm good. So before we dive into this week's topics, let's talk about last week. How do you think our first episode went?
I thought that it was interesting. Teaching an old cat how to be on YouTube and show yourself and be off the cuff and natural was quite interesting. It's so easy to not want to talk or share publicly like this and have strangers judge you. But what the hell? It was a good start. How about for you?
It's tough. It's tough being on the other side of the other side of the screen. I mean, I watch videos on YouTube and through Facebook, and I'm like, who's this clown? This guy sounds like a total idiot. And then I play mine back, and I'm like, oh shit, this yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
You do sound like an idiot. You do hate the sound of your own voice. So it's just kind of the way it goes. But I think we put some good information out there. Hopefully we can do the same thing this week.
Absolutely. Hey, we put the content out there. This is our unique opinion, and everybody has opinions. Nobody's right. There's a collection of thoughts. So, let's have at it and keep building on it. We're going to be professional and on the news one day.
Definitely. All right, let's jump into it. So question 1 this week: what was the recent lawsuit against NAR regarding buyer commissions all about? Trevin, you go ahead.
Yeah, so that was a really big case, and it turned into a national thing to the point that it's caused a lot of headache in our real estate industry. Point being is, the buyer commission as we know it is upside down. So it's not even clear exactly how it's going to be handled going forward. There's a lot of talk. The core of it is the MLS as we know it will not showcase any commission for a buyer's agent. So if I'm out with a buyer, I have to have a buyer agent agreement. And at the end of it, that buyer has to agree to pay the agent fee. It's no longer assumed that sellers are paying it. So it's crazy, man. It's coming down early August. I don't know. What are you thinking about it, Dave?
I watched a video the other day, and it was one of the attorneys that apparently spearheaded this lawsuit against NAR, and how they lost to this fool, I have no idea. Basically, he was stating that they wanted to pull back commissions, and I guess the gist of it in their eyes was that it was unethical for realtors to have that co-op information into the MLS, because that could unfairly lead you to show specific properties, higher priced properties, or properties that appeal to your wallet more so than your buyer. I personally, I've never done that. When someone calls me and says, "Hey, let's take a look at property," if there's a bonus attached to that as the selling agent, if there's a higher co-op commission, that's great. But that's not the underlying cause of why we saw that property. We saw that property because it fit the buyer's needs. It just checked the boxes of what they were looking for. So in the end, I don't think this is a great thing. And I don't just say that as a realtor worried about commissions. 75-80% of my business is working with sellers. So I'm probably not going to receive the same effect that a buyer's agent would. But I just think if you put fees on top of buyers, when you're already looking at higher interest rates, you're already looking at junk fees that they may pay with a lender. I just think it's an unnecessary strain that's going to be put on buyers, and I don't think it's going to be a good thing long term. And I really look for, probably within 6 months into that, I really think they're gonna have to find some kind of either repealing that or some kind of adjustment to the way that system is working. Because right now they're saying you can't disclose information on the MLS. Well, what's the difference between me putting that I'm co-oping 2.5 or 3% to a buyer's agent on the MLS versus that agent calling me and saying, Trevin calls me up and says, "Hey, David, you're listing over on XYZ Street. Is there any co-op being offered on that?" Well, yeah, if you bring a successful buyer, we're going to co-op 2%. The seller's willing to do that. What's the difference? It makes no sense to me.
Well, Dave, let me come back at that point you make. I just was listening to Ricky Carruth, who is a big influencer on YouTube. He's a pretty big agent with EXP, was like the number one agent with Remax for a while. And he got his hand slapped because he made some claims about how it was going to be moving forward. And there are a lot of big influencers on YouTube who are disclaiming that even if I, as an agent, were to call you and ask you about commission being offered, you're not allowed to say anything. Like it seemed as though the proper approach is going to be, hey, make a great offer, send me an offer, and then we'll talk from there. And it's going to be part of this seller concession disclosed area as a potential for paying buyer's agent commission. So there's really a big black hole about this because the DOJ is involved too. And there's an antitrust element to this. So yeah, it goes so deep. I don't know where this is going to go in the long run. But let's take it to the next question. How will this recent ruling against NAR affect real estate going forward? I mean, what do you think?
How it's going to affect me? I don't think again because I work with sellers, it's not going to affect me as much because I don't have to handle the buying end of it. But obviously, it's going to be a question with sellers. I know that there are sellers right now that are on the fence on listing their properties and are waiting until after this ruling comes out because they view it as an opportunity to say, okay, well, we're only going to have to pay 2.5 or 3% to sell the property now because I don't have to offer compensation. How that's going to play out is going to be extremely interesting to me because I just can't wrap my head around the fact that you've got a seller that wants to sell their property. You've got a buyer that's taking their time and energy and resources and putting a buyer in their car, sending them information on neighborhoods, and it's going to bring them to the property with the unknown of whether they're going to get paid or not. I don't know that there's anyone in any industry that's willing to just go out there and take a chance and say, okay, well, I'm going to do this and maybe I'll get paid or maybe I won't. Oh shit, never mind. That's realtors. That's what we do all the time. We do that literally all the time. So anytime you put someone in your car, you're actually doing that. So, but it is going to be interesting to see how that plays out over time in regards to how sellers are going to respond, and are they going to say, okay, well, offer that buyer's agent, 1%. It's always been negotiable. So that doesn't change. That's always been negotiable. So I do think there are sellers that are going to say, okay, if it takes an additional percent or two, beyond 1% to bring that buyer in here and have them represented and feel good about their transaction and we put a deal together, then I'm okay with it. That's just my thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it brings up a lot of different ideas for me personally when it comes to how to handle it. I do a lot of listings myself and I do a lot of off market investments or just strategic sales with sellers. So, instead of a seller doing a for sale by owner, I'll explore shopping their property to my list of investors or look for other ways to help them get out the property. If the market, which we're in a market that's not super strong, so they need to move out sooner rather than later. And given this rule by the NAR, not well, as a byproduct of this big lawsuit, which we didn't mention, it was over $400 million that NAR is paying over the course of many years, right?
Who gets that money? Who's going to get that money?
Well, think about it, right? It's like any class action lawsuit. There are probably thousands of people who signed their names on this list feeling unjustified that they have to pay, commissions to a buyer's agent. And when it breaks down, it's probably only like 10, 20 bucks a person, right? So the real winners of this lawsuit are the lawyers. The lawyers are making out.
Exactly. I'm picturing I'm picturing the NAR president, like Steve Martin in The Jerk, and he's writing out this check, $7.82 to Trevin Perez. I mean, I don't think anyone, with the exception of the attorneys, are going to get rich off of this. And back to that video that I saw regarding one of those attorneys, there was a reference in there which I thought was interesting. There was a reference in there that possibly a buyer could consult a real estate attorney to have them negotiate an offer. Last time I checked, I don't know any real estate attorney that's operating for free. So,
True.
I'm looking at long term for buyers and sellers out there. And you may have gone from a situation to where it was a 3% fee to a buyer's agent to bring them in to 10-20% for a real estate attorney to negotiate that deal for you. It's just it's going to be interesting. So
Absolutely.
So next question on that is, are you better off focusing on listings right now versus buyers, given the new changes that are about to come about?
Yeah, I think that we're hitting on it from the start of this recording. It's all listings all day. You control the inventory, and so you control the opportunity to create a transaction. And I personally think that, for my business alone, I think I'm going to get more creative once this law goes into effect in August to potentially try to drive more buyer traffic to my own listings, so that I can control the opportunity as a buyer's agent versus worrying about a third party buyer, coming along through an agent. And in fact, David, I would suspect we already see a small percentage of buyers who call the listing agent as a preference versus calling their buyer's agent. Because, as a listing agent, how many times have you noticed buyers are the ones telling their agents, hey, I want to see this property or that property, versus the agent being on top of them? It's impossible for a buyer's agent to be on top of 50 to 100 buyers as adequately and professionally as some buyers need. There's a lot of manpower, especially with all the wheeling around, as you referenced, driving around, showing properties. So I think that listings are the way to go for the future. And what's your take?
List to last. That's what my broker told me when I went into this business 25 years ago. And at first I didn't understand, what he meant by that. But from working, both sides of transactions early on in my career, I agree. When you have listing inventory, you basically control your market. You have buyer's agents that are looking to you because you have the product that they're looking for, that their buyers are looking for. So I definitely think that agents are going to be better served working towards listings. Now, you can't have all listing agents and no buyer's agent. Obviously, you have to have a buyer's agent to bring that buyer into the transaction. And I don't want to mislead and say that I don't work with buyers. Like you said, to your point, I have a lot of buyers that contact me directly. The buyers that I typically work with are buyers that are either in my circle of influence, they're customers that I've sold property to, their son, daughter, grandmother, and they've used me over time, or they call me directly on my listings. And you're right, a lot of buyers feel that there is, I think, more knowledge from the listing agent regarding that property. You've got firsthand knowledge. You can't reveal anything to the detriment of the other party, and that's something that gets into agency, and when we're talking about being a single agent versus a transaction agent. And a lot of people don't understand the difference between those two. When you're working on the listing side, you're working as a single agent. You're representing that seller, and what you're agreeing to, and your seller agrees to, is that if another party comes in and inquires about that property, you can give them a limited form of representation as what we call a transaction agent. And I think most offices have gone to transaction agency. There's less issues, with going to a transaction agency as far as being single. I don't know that in the current market there's a lot of agents that actually know what it means to work as a single agent. When you're working as a single agent, you have a fiduciary relationship to that buyer or seller that you're working with. So yeah, for me, listings all day. I'll definitely take buyers along the way, but that's just my take.
Yeah.
So as
Just to
go ahead.
clarify one point, David, the Florida is a transactional brokerage state. I mean, we don't do too many. If they are, there's not many that happen as single agent.
Right.
Wouldn't you say? I mean, you've been in it longer than me.
Yeah, so my broker with ERA Davis and Lynn, they've actually given agents that ability to still act as a single agent. And it's one of the things that set our office apart in Northeast Florida, is that we do have that ability to act as a single agent. But again, I think with that comes a great responsibility. You have to know exactly what that means, and what your relationship is with your customer. But in many cases, you're right. What ends up evolving is a transactional, relationship between the two. So are prices starting to go down on listings? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the market data is showing that overall pricing of houses are going down significantly. What is significantly? It varies, right? Market to market, city to city, zip code to zip code. But overall, yeah, we're seeing a trend of price changes. And I was looking at the Florida market data overall, and it's showing that. And then even locally, I was seeing that there was a great deal of homes that are taking price decreases on their listings. It was a high percentage, and when you factor in that percentage of homes that were taking price decreases on top of those listings that were going expired, temporarily off market, or withdrawn, you take that total number versus the new listings, it was significant. I was surprised by that. Before we jumped on this call, I looked at the past 7-day average, and it's something to notice, because this should be our prime season for sales, before school starts.
Yeah.
What's your take?
I agree. They're starting to come down. It's a bit of an odd situation in Northeast Florida, because when I look on the MLS and I look at inventory, it's all location, it's all geographical, but there's really not a glut of inventory in any one particular area in my area. So in other words, I'm not going on and seeing 50, 100 houses. I mean, there's certain price points you go in and you find very few, if any. But with that said, I think that there's still some waiting going on. Now whether it's elections, the rates, whatever the case is, what people are waiting on. I think there's still some waiting going on, and let's see what happens. I think a lot of buyers out there are thinking that we're going to have a real estate bubble, and that we're going to have a dramatic crash in prices. I don't think that's the case. I think what usually wins out is, I think, properties that show well, that are priced well. Those properties sell. And if you're overpriced in the current market, you know it within a 30-day time period. Typically, when I list a home, we establish the pricing based on what the current market is, and I tell my seller, unless they've got a urgent situation to where they've got another property that's closing or under contract or something to that effect, we're going to wait 30 days on the market and see if we need to adjust. Now, what I also tell sellers is that sometimes somebody blinks. Somebody in the market blinks, and they say, I've got equity in this property. I could stay at this price point, but I want to sell now. And then you see some big reductions. I've seen a couple where I've seen some condos go from a 240 to down to 199. I mean, that's a pretty huge reduction. But I think that, again, those are sellers that have equity in the property and can make that choice. So overall, again, you have to monitor that on a weekly basis. I think you have to look at it. You have to stay in touch with your sellers. You have to say, okay, this is where your home is positioned in the current market. These are the top 10 homes within that area. Are you in that range? And if you're not, what adjustments can you make? Is it because of condition, location, price? So all of those things. So I wanted to talk. I know we wanted to talk about a couple of different things that happened this week. So I wanted to get your take on a scenario that I had this past weekend. So we spent some time together this weekend looking at some of your investment properties, and I'll let you share that in a moment. But as I was coming back, I was driving back from Orlando, and I had a buyer call me, and they wanted some information on one of my listings. So the schedule was kind of tight coming back, and I told them I could possibly do a showing appointment later on that evening. But I was driving, and I wanted to send them some pre-qual questions that I send to every buyer that I'm not working with. So one of the questions was always, are you working with an agent right now? I asked if you're working with an agent. I asked if they were pre-approved, and tried to get some feel for I don't want to waste my seller's time by taking a buyer in that's not pre-qualified. So they sent back no, that they had talked to some agents, but they were not working with any agent, and that they were pre-approved. So we agreed. We met at the property. I showed the property. They loved it. They loved everything about it. We agreed that we would. It's an inventory property, so there were some things that they wanted additional information on. We agreed that we would come back the next day, see the property again. I shared a lot of information with them about the process in a transactional manner because, again, this was a listing that I had. And so then, lo and behold, Sunday was the showing day. Monday morning, I get a phone call, and we've all had that call. And it was an agent that was Sally so-and-so from XYZ Realty. And she said, you showed my buyer a property yesterday, and they love it. They want to make an offer on it. So as you can imagine, I was taken aback a bit by it, and I reached out to the buyer, and I said, what the hell is going on? We talked about this yesterday, and their response was, oh well, I didn't have an agent yesterday. I contacted someone, a brother-in-law or somebody referred an agent to me, so I wanted to go ahead and use them. I explained the transactional relationship, and their response was that, well, maybe they would be better off, using their own agent, which I have absolutely no problem with. If a buyer wants to use their own agent, I'm completely fine with that. But it's just a disclosure, and I think that there's a lot of buyers that are not being honest. We're asked to be held to a standard, but there's a lot of buyers that are out there that are not being honest. And I've done this for 25 years, and to get caught up in something that a new agent, would find themselves in, it's a little disheartening. So that was my Sunday.
Yeah, that was a bum way to start your Sunday too. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That was crazy.
I feel you're really sorry for me. I feel like you're rooting for that buyer in that scenario. I feel like you're rooting for them. That you're like, yeah, stick it to him. He deserves that.
Never would I do that to a fellow realtor. God. And I think that, some of our conversation about the NAR ruling will help with that, right? With the buyer agent agreement is going to really make a difference, because then you have that piece of document to hold account for. However, will it really matter? Because they could just choose not to make the offer with you.
Right.
So there's really no clean guarantee way, because the marketplace is the marketplace. They're going to choose to honor that relationship that at that moment they feel like respecting.
Yeah. It used to be my broker, as it was called, procuring calls. If you were the procuring calls, in other words, you took the buyer over the threshold, so to speak, and you showed that property, then you were entitled to that commission. And it's not that way legally anymore. Basically, it's whoever writes the contract. So you can spend your time. So agents that are out there listening, just know this: you can spend your time showing property to a buyer. And if they choose to write that offer with Trevin instead of me, that can happen. Big mistake, but it can happen. So what about your week? I know you did some investing, some creative financing calls. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So it was all about touching base with sellers who were struggling to sell their home. The issue being they had it listed with an agent or two. It wasn't working. They canceled the listing. They decided to go for sale by owner. and I get a hold of the person. They're American family with the same story that a lot of people have. They're like, I need to move. I can't sell this house for the amount of money I need in the time frame I need. And I can't afford to pay the agent. So that's why I'm going for sale by owner. And I hear it all the time. And in this particular case, it was great because the guy was a veteran. He served 2 tours in Iraq, only 40 years old, man. He's a kid, and 3 kids, wife. I really feel for these guys. And my dad's a Vietnam vet, so I'm all about trying to help out our armed force members. And what we're going to explore for him is a possibility of taking over his mortgage. And he realized that that might be his only option. He still has a fantastic rate under 5%. So, we presented a contract to him the other day, and now I'm trying to, see if he wants to take it to the finish line and explore what this can do just to relieve that financial pressure of being stuck in that house. I mentioned in last week's call that you need a lawyer, right? Or you can have legal representation. The reality is Florida is a title company driven state for transactions. So you can use a lawyer, or you just use title companies who can have legal representation on staff. So I just wanted to clarify that because, I think it's an important point that you can buy and sell real estate with a lawyer or without. Places like New York, you absolutely use a lawyer, and you probably pay a better penny for it than you would here with title companies. But I'm hoping that we can help this family. It'd be a nice goal to make a difference in their life.
Yeah, that's a good side of it. I hadn't thought of that scenario. I get a couple of calls on listings, and most of my sellers are looking to be out from underneath the property. So they're ready to sell. So their situation is that maybe they want to buy something else immediately. They've got some pretty good equity in it. So for those reasons, they're typically out of any creative financing because they don't want to be tied to that mortgage. But that scenario, it does seem positive that it could help somebody out in that. So
yeah,
cool.
I mean, Dave, think about it like this. What does a family do? Do they just decide to cut into what they can afford and take a $10,000-$20,000 haircut? It just doesn't make any sense, especially if you do have to go and remove that mortgage off your plate.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. So my favorite part of the show, Kiss, Marry, Kill. So Kiss, Marry, Kill, Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com. Go.
Oh man. Yeah, I need to go first because you're gonna take up the rest of the time here. So I'll say my piece, and then I will drop off and let you continue with the podcast. Yeah. So I think that I will marry Realtor.com. Just historically, I think that they're the brand that is closest from a integrity standpoint to realtors as a whole. I suspect, I don't know for sure. I would say that I would kiss homes.com. I think they're on the come up with their algorithms and their marketing. I don't know a great deal about them, but I hear from agents in the field that are saying good things about their efforts. I gotta say, and I know that this is like really up your alley, I would kill Zillow. I think as a third party 800-pound gorilla or gator, they started as a comrade in our business, and now they're just taking over. They control so much of our data. They control our business. The average person out here listening to this doesn't realize how expensive it is to be in real estate and the cost of running ads, because Zillow is going to charge an ungodly amount of money for buyers to hear from us. And then they're frustrated because Zillow will sell their name and information to multiple realtors. And then we're all just clamoring and fighting to get their attention. And of course, the buyer is super frustrated.
Yeah.
So it's a no-win scenario. And I'd love to see Zillow change up their model some. I think they're going to have no choice with the settlement case. But let me stop there so that you can get on your soapbox.
I've been waiting all week for this. So,
Right.
so for me, it's pretty easy. The KISS, Realtor.com, Homes.com, I could probably switch either one of those from either KISS to Mary. I'll say KISS, Realtor.com, because it is the entity that I was raised in real estate on. I'm still a little bitter in that Realtor.com years ago would actually charge me fees based on how many listings I carried. So if you have a great year, then their philosophy is that, well, you made more money, we're going to charge you more money. So they base their fees for what they called enhanced listing at the time. So back in I don't know, 20 years ago, they had Realtor.com had what they call an enhanced listing. It's a basic listing now, but back then it was multiple photos. It was more than just the one thumbnail, and it was considered just over the top. Everyone has that now. It's nothing new. So yeah, maybe a KISS for them. Homes.com, I like Homes.com. I like the fact that you can advertise with them. The advertising is not outrageous. I haven't advertised with them other than just a standard profile right now, but I've heard good things in regards to sending you that information. Realtor.com over the years, I haven't really received a lot of leads from, versus the advertising that you did. But to the kill is absolutely the devil, Zillow. And the reason I say that is because I cannot, you and I've talked about this, I cannot think of another industry that basically steals a product and resells it like Zillow does. And it's our own fault. It's our own fault. The National Association of Realtors should be absolutely ashamed that years ago they let what started as a automated valuation model, which is what Zillow was. Zillow would go into your tax record, pull the information on your property, and then comprise a valuation based on what properties were selling for in a given area. I have the same conversation with buyers every week when buyers try to tell me, well, this is what it says on Zillow, or this is the price that it says on Zillow. If you read at the very bottom of a Zillow page, there's a disclaimer that says there can be as much as a 20% variance in the price that they put on there versus what the actual value is. That's huge. That's a huge difference between pricing. So, but that's not where I fault them. Where I fault them and where I fault NAR is that we let them take our information, our listings. So Trevin, if you go out and you speak with a seller, and maybe it's somebody that you have a reputation with and you've done a fantastic job for them over the years, and they agree to list with you because you're a great agent. You're a great agent. You've done a great job for them, marketing their property, getting their property sold for them. And now you go out, you sign that listing agreement with that customer because of your efforts and what you did. And then Zillow comes in and says, click, click, we'll take that listing, we'll put that on our website, we'll advertise it to the masses. And then when those buyers contact us regarding that listing, hey, Trevin, we'll sell those right back to you at a premium cost. And I can't think of any other industry that allows that type of thing to go on. There's what they call an IDX feed from the MLS. And years ago, what they should have done is they should have said, you know what, we're not going to send that. We're not going to send that to Zillow. Or better yet, we're going to charge you a fee, which is really what we should do. And that's what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that today. So I'm going to go ahead and start my campaign. And my campaign is that Zillow going forward should pay on every listing that I take if they want to put that on their website. This is my work. This is my intellectual property, if you will. So I believe they should pay a fee. Am I wrong?
I think you got a good case there. You got to take that and run for office. Get into politics there. You have a future.
If it were up to me, every week when we do the Kiss, Marry, Kill segment, I want to put Zillow just so I could kill them on a weekly basis. I want to do it every single week.
Yeah. So we have to tie in our questions to always include Zillow somehow. That'd be unique. I think that'd make it really creative too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You
So, well, hey, I appreciate for your time this week. I hope we put some good information out there to everyone. The disclosure. Do you want to go over any kind of disclosures? There's some legal disclosures that Trevin has made me aware of that apparently we have to disclose. I'll disclose. I'll do a quick disclosure. What I say is my opinion, and if you listen to me and someone eggs your house or you get assaulted, that's your fault. I don't know what else to say. So that's my disclosure.
All right. Cool. And I consulted the legal team at the Realtors podcast, and they informed us that we should just remind you, listeners, that these are the opinion of two gentlemen in arms fighting a good fight in the real estate industry locally here in Florida. And, you should do your own research to double check, triple check anything you disagree with. No need to leave nasty comments. It's all about love and contribution. Okay. As realtors, we contribute. And there was a point where David said, there's a lot of times we drive around or help people and we do not make money off of that effort toward a transaction. Sometimes we're not even if we're the procuring cause of that transaction, we still do not make money, as he just illustrated. So disclaimer is just, this is just helpful information. It's available. We are helpful resources and we're available. You see our email listed below. We're happy to help you with strategies, investments, or traditional home purchases. And with that said, we thank you for your time and joining us, and we hope that you stick along for the ride.
All right. Thank you for your time, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.